welcome to the live series of Doctor Trouble.
Oh, thank you very much. Thanks for the invitation. This is great.
Yes, I'm very excited to have you here. I was explaining before you entering that I didn't announce this live with with so much time before. So I'm really hoping people can join us and still enjoy our chat because I think it will be very interesting. At least I'm so excited.
I'm
So
excited too. It's great that we're doing it in English as well, because then not only people in Portugal or Brazil or Portuguese-speaking countries can watch this, but anybody in the world can follow
yes,
anytime.
yes, exactly. I've been wanting to do this in English for a long time, but you made me actually wanted to do the jump. So yes. So just as a short note, for those who don't know how my life series, I have this Instagram page for a few years now, and I talk about traveling and especially traveling with humanitarian purposes. And I'm really hoping to inspire some of you to have a little more meaning into your life. So I really think you are a very interesting and definitely a right guest to have with this mode in mind. Because let me do a short introduction of you. So our guest today is Dr. Liliana. She's a medical doctor. She's from Portugal, and in 2017, she decided to move abroad to Australia in order to complete a medical residency program. That's, as you can imagine, it's definitely not an easy an easy thing to do, especially on the other side of the world. So I was definitely inspired by her journey, and I thought it would be amazing. I was actually very happy when she accepted the invitation to talk to me and to all of you. So I'm really hoping some of you can chat with us. Maybe if you want to ask some questions, interact with us on the chat, please do it. And yeah, that's it. So how are you feeling as my first guest in English?
Well, now I'm a little bit nervous. Now that I hear that I'm the first one, there's always very high expectations in your first time.
Yes, well, don't worry. I'm sure we will all be. It doesn't. I'm sure you will meet all the expectations.
Well, I hope so. I can only do my best.
Yes. So in order to start, I'm really interested in learning why did you decide to move to Australia? Where did this idea come from?
I think, as most decisions in life, it was multifactorial. So one big factor was that I had I was born and raised in Portugal. I did medical school here, and although I really like my country in so many ways, and I'm very close to my family, although at the time I didn't realize how good I have it with my family, for a long time, I'd already noticed that I wanted to spend some time overseas. I speak good English, fortunately, apart from Portuguese, I hope. And I just thought I should try something different. I should expand my horizons a little bit. So I visited Australia, London, the United States, and Canada, and I was essentially shopping and trying to find out where would be a good fit for me and where I would feel well in general and where I thought there was going to be good medical training. So I could grow as much as possible, not only as a doctor, but also as a person. And in the end, Australia and Melbourne in particular ended up being my favorite places, my favorite spots. I thought they resonated the most with me. And I felt very happy the time that I was there. I thought they had really good training, but there was a time when they said, well, you've already worked enough. I think you should go home and take some rest and then come back tomorrow and learn some more. I really liked that attitude. So partially the decision was because I wanted to grow as a person and grow as a doctor. But the other important part of the time was that when I went to Australia, I fell in love because I was young and I thought I met a really nice guy, and he is really nice. We're still very good friends. We're not together anymore, but at the time we did long distance for a year and a half, but that wouldn't be sustainable long term. One of us had to make a change. And I'd already been interested in moving to different countries. That was the whole reason I visited Australia in the first place. So I decided that I would move and give our relationship a chance. And that was it, really.
Okay, I can understand because, Australian people in general, they are very attractive, you know.
So I'm glad you think that.
Oh, that's very beautiful. You have faith in, in life and in love. I can see that.
I
And
know. I'm
yes.
very romantic.
And so you move, and why didn't you came back after, after your relationship didn't work? You could have
Mm.
decided to come back, right? I mean, I think most of people would do that, I
I
guess.
know, I know. And it did occur to me. I did think about it. And I remember my boyfriend then had told me his friends asked, if you guys break up, will she still be here? And at the time he said he thought I would go back to Portugal. So when we did actually break up, although it was unexpected, that already played a little bit in my mind. And I thought, well, he thought I came to Australia just for him. He thinks that if we break up, I'm going to give up on my career and everything that I've worked so hard for. Hell no. So it was a little bit of a challenge that he put on me inadvertently. But I thought, well, I did work my butt off to get where I am now. I thought I had a good job. I thought I made good friendships. I was doing a master's. And it would have been difficult to just leave all of that behind because I had already lived in Australia for 2.5 years when this happened.
Hmm.
So moving to Australia was something that took me a year and a half to plan. And I didn't feel comfortable just making a sudden decision to come back to Portugal. We broke up, it was 2019. And then, as you know, 2020, COVID happened. So
Yes.
even if I had decided at that time that I wanted to come back, I wouldn't have felt comfortable doing it in that period.
Yeah.
Now, however, that things are settling a little bit and Australian borders are open again, and I've had a different boyfriend, with whom things haven't worked out. Now I've started thinking, well, do I actually want to go back to Portugal? Because I have proved my worth. I believe that I've shown everybody I can do this. I've proved to myself that I can do whatever I set my mind to. Now, do I want to set my mind to going back to Portugal? And yes, I've actually decided I want to come back. So that's my challenge for 2022.
You will come back? Oh,
Eventually.
I don't know if you feel this way, but whenever I travel, especially if I travel like long term and I create relationships and roots in other place, then when I come back, and I never travel like as long as you I never lived as long as you in another place, but in another country. But it's like when I come back, I always feel like I'm coming I'm walking backwards in my life. It's like I'm coming back to a place where everything is the same. Because people around you didn't have the change that you had, and it's kind of hard sometimes to deal with that. Have you ever experienced that? And are you afraid of that in coming back?
Yes, to both questions. I have experienced that and I am scared of that. However, I find that I felt that more when I had only lived overseas for a shorter period of time. Now that I've been overseas for over 5 years, I come back and although some things stay the same, because some things just always stay the same, a lot of things have actually changed already. And I'm trying to look at things in a positive way as well. Although there might be things that I could lose with this move, I'm trying to focus on the things that I will gain. For example, I'm vegetarian. When I left Portugal, being vegetarian was very difficult if you wanted to go out and eat something that wasn't just lettuce and
Yes.
tomato. And I was lucky if people didn't offer me an omelet with shrimp. And I'm like, whoa, I don't eat shrimp. Now I come back And I realize, oh gosh, there's 20 new vegetarian restaurants and cafes. I haven't been to them. This is amazing. I can eat again. I am not going to starve. Things do change, and I do see that there is some change for the positive. Obviously, I haven't gone back to practicing medicine in Portugal yet, and I'm really scared that some of the things that bothered me before might not have improved yet. But the truth is, I won't know until I try again. And I have tried very hard in Australia already. I think it's time that I also try in Portugal again. And hopefully I can bring all the things that I've I've learned over there that are not being used in Portugal yet.
What do you feel you learned the most that can make a change in Portugal?
How
Oh,
to
that question.
Yes, yes. Look, I think I've grown in a lot of ways, but I think something that's really changed me as a person and as a doctor is in the way that I conduct myself and I speak and I interact with other people. And I don't know if a lot of people realize how painful microaggressions can be and macroaggressions. I've seen situations for both in either country. Definitely do think that the environment is more friendly in Australia. And I think we can improve the way that we communicate and we handle each other in life and in the hospital.
Mhm.
So I do hope that when I come back, I won't lose this part of me. I don't want to be I don't want to say bitter, but I hope that I'll be able to stay happy and joyful and maintain good relationships with people. And something that I would like to do is to see the staff bond a little bit more in the hospital in a healthy way, in a safe way, obviously now with COVID. Um, but I do think this is something we could still improve on.
Mhm. That's true. And how was your experience as you are in intensive medical residency? I didn't mention that, but how was the COVID experience for you? Because
It,
I'm asking because in Portugal we learned that in Australia it's not that big of a deal. So, what is your experience?
well, I feel that I have actually been quite protected from COVID. I think the doctors in Portugal have had it a lot worse than I did. And even other doctors in Australia had it a lot worse than I did because the first year, 2020, I did a lot of work in emergency, but I actually, something that I used to keep as a secret, and now it's not a secret anymore. I have rheumatoid arthritis and I need to take medication for it, and I'm immunosuppressed. So whenever I was working in emergency, if there was somebody else that could see a potentially COVID patient, that somebody else would go. I would only go if there was absolutely no one else that could go.
Okay.
So I do think I was very protected from it. And at one stage, I needed to start biologic medication for rheumatoid. And for that period of time, I was actually working from home. I did medical administration. So I wasn't even seeing patients at that time. I was just so lucky in that way. This year, well, last year, 2021, I've started intensive care. Things have been more managed. We understand the disease better. My illness is under control. So I have been seeing people with COVID in intensive care. And the sentiment, I think, across the staff in Australia is that one, the, the, the fact that Australia was trying to keep COVID something non-existent, we were trying to keep zero cases. We already know that we cannot have zero COVID cases in the country. That's going to be not feasible if we want to keep the country sane from a financial and a mental well-being point of view. So we now accept we will have COVID. And we are trying to vaccinate as many people as possible. I don't know if people here in Portugal have seen the news, but unfortunately, we do have a lot of protests against vaccines. And although we understand the risks of vaccines, personally, as an intensive care trainee, I haven't seen anybody go to intensive care because they had a reaction to a vaccine. However, 90% of the people I have in intensive care with COVID are unvaccinated. And 100% of the people that are dying of COVID were unvaccinated. So there's a little bit of a struggle here. We definitely feel some resentment towards the people that either don't believe COVID exists or refuse to get vaccinated if they don't have a legitimate medical reason for it.
Yes,
That's the vibe that we have at the moment.
that makes sense because they actually probably don't know what it's like to live with COVID, you know?
Yes, that's right. And part of the reason is that we were shut for so long. We had such little COVID that people didn't believe it was a real thing. They saw the news, but unless it's happening to you or your friend or your neighbor, you don't think it's going to happen to you either.
Yes.
So people are only coming to terms with that now.
I see. So, you know, I think it's very interesting that that's the experience we would have in Europe if we had good government, you know. But since we don't, it's nice to see the other side of the coin. Um, but now that you mentioned your experience as a medical doctor there, I'm really curious about, you know, your journey there and how do you feel? Did you struggle? How did you feel? Did you struggle? I know you start with a surgical residency and then you decided to change your path. And I'm curious about what were your struggles there? What did you feel it was the most challenge for you and struggling, away from home and that sort of things?
Again, multifactorial.
Obviously.
It's easier to look back. Hindsight is 2020. To try and simplify it, I came across an image the other day that I think really illustrates very well what happened when I hit burnout. I self-diagnosed with burnout in November 2019. And there's a pyramid, the Maslow hierarchy of needs, I think that's called. And there's 5 different levels to that. I can't remember all of them by heart, but it's essentially meeting your physical needs, meeting your safety, meeting enjoyment or fulfillment in what you're doing, having purpose, having self-esteem, and something else. And I realized that when I burnt out, I was lacking in all of the different layers of that pyramid. So everything failed in a way. Part of it was, yes, I was alone in a country very far away from where my whole family was. And it wasn't easy to just drop everything and come to Portugal. It takes 24 hours to travel.
Yes.
And it's not cheap. You need to time it right. So then when you go to Portugal, you're able to see the people you need to see because people aren't just waiting for you to show up. They can't just drop everything. Part of it was also the surgical world in Australia is very tough as well. Although I have felt in general that people have been welcoming with me, I have on some occasions felt that I was being discriminated against. Maybe because I'm female, maybe because I'm brown, maybe because I'm international, maybe because I don't shut up if I see something I don't agree with. So many potential reasons. And I also, in general, just didn't feel like I was growing at work anymore. I was doing a good job. I was doing what was required of me, but I wasn't learning. I wasn't progressing. I felt stagnated. And there's been some occasions that people had mentioned, you're doing a good job, but something's not right. And they couldn't say what wasn't right. And that wasn't very constructive feedback to me.
Mm-hmm.
So, and also, of course, the relationship breakdown. So my boyfriend and I broke up, and we had just recently made a very big financial commitment. We had just bought a house. And then 2 weeks after the house is ours, he breaks up. So all of these things combined, it became a lot. And look, this all happened even before COVID. So
Yeah.
I'm actually quite lucky and happy that this happened before COVID. If this all happened during COVID, I have no idea how I would have coped, because I have very good friends in Australia, but they can't be with me 24/7. They can't replace the family that I have in Portugal. They can't fix my job. They can't fix everything. And with the borders shut, it was very difficult to speak or see anybody. I
I
think the fact that the borders were shut was probably the most difficult part for me, really.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting that you're saying that, because you're mentioning that most of your burnout reasons, or the things you point as the most important factors, you relate them as being a foreigner. But the truth is that that I have a Portuguese experience and I'm living in my home country, uh, I see burnout everywhere, and in the medical community, it's a very real issue, and you know we have other reasons, but they are all important. We have the reasons that our national system sucks, and people are not trying to make a change at all. They are trying to kind of destroying the national system so they can reward the private sector, the the private hospitals, the private insurances, and all those companies. And they actually don't care about people struggling, and they are trying to put everything onto doctors. And then there's the constant fights between different health professionals. There is the lack of instruments, the lack of material. There is the residency that is very, very mental demanding in all the specialties, even the ones that it's really nonsense. Why are why is this so hard when it's supposed to be a very chill specialty? It really doesn't make sense. But what I'm trying to say is that some people might listen to you and think, whoa, she had a really hard time. It would be easier for her if she was in Portugal. And probably in some ways, definitely. But the truth is that there are a lot of different, how can I say, amounts of reasons for burnout, and none of them is, it's less valuable than the others. And
Exactly.
yes, and I really understand that you being in the surgical field really led you to that situation, because that's very, very common. And yeah, how did you felt? Did you felt like changing your path at that point helped you? And how did you overcome that issue? What worked for you?
Uh, Fortunately, I had made a good connection with one of the directors of medical specialties at the hospital where I was working. So he was essentially a mentor to the junior doctors in that hospital. And I had a really terrible week where I was just crying in the bathroom every day at work. And at that stage, I wasn't doing a very good job anymore. And I was thinking, gosh, this isn't safe anymore. And so I went to his office and I told him, look, something's wrong. I think it's burnout. I think this isn't fair for the patients. I'm scared I might make a bad mistake and I can't do this anymore. I thought I really loved medicine. It was my passion. It's what I've always wanted. I've never wanted to do anything else. And in theory, I really want to help people, but right now I can't do it. I just can't come back to work. And he was very understanding. He had experienced something similar himself, And in Australia, in the state of Victoria, we are entitled to 30 days of sick leave every year. And if you don't use them, you can accumulate from one year to the other. So I did have a fair amount of sick leave I could use. So that's what I did. I stopped working. I just couldn't go back. And I went traveling. I did consulting work instead for 2.5 months. I went back to the hospital, but he knew that I was coming back in the premise that I would not go back to the unit where I had worked before because that was really not healthy for me. And with the premise that I needed somebody to hold my hand in the beginning because my self-esteem and my confidence completely disappeared. It vanished. Everything I thought I knew in medicine, in the workplace, about myself, everything I thought I knew, I was second guessing. I couldn't make a simple decision. Should I eat or should I sit down or should I have a shower? I couldn't make any decisions at that stage. And the first year I went back to medicine, I was just focused on recovering. I didn't know that year was going to be the year that COVID was coming. It just happened to be that way. But I just had the lowest possible expectations of myself. And during that year, I started building back on my self-esteem and confidence. I started seeing patients. I got positive feedback for other things that I was doing at work, even though they were new to me. And then I started realizing, okay, I feel a bit better now. I think it's time I start looking at what I want to do next.
Mhm.
And I saw a careers coach. I spoke to, we did tests about my personality, my fortes, the skills that I have that could be transferable, what would I enjoy. And intensive care had been something that was on my mind. I had never properly done it before because it wasn't a recognized specialty when I was doing medical school in Portugal, but it was something that I was really interested about. And I ended up deciding that's what I'm going to try next. I didn't know if I was going to fall in love with it. I didn't know if it was going to be a similar passion to what I had felt previously for neurosurgery. But so far, I've been lucky. Now I've worked in intensive care for a year and it worked really well. I have an amazing team, amazing bosses. I've learned so much and I'm very happy every day that I wake up and I get to go to work.
I find very interesting that you're saying at one point you cannot decide if you sit or shower, and on the next phase you are deciding to go to a specialty where you decide, you know, life threatening, where you make life decisions. So you really did a great jump over there, you know. You knew your confidence inside, after all. And how do you feel you managed to do that over work? Did you share your struggles with other people? Because, you know, we all know mental health is a very huge taboo in the medical community.
Yes. But you know what? When I burnt out and I decided I just could not go back to that unit, and I probably, by not going back to that unit, I had probably destroyed my chances of doing neurosurgery in Australia. I just decided, you know what? I'm all the way in the other side of the planet. I no longer have a boyfriend. I no longer have a job that I love. The two things I came to Australia to do, I no longer have. What else do I have to lose? And so I just decided, look, I'm tired of keeping secrets. The fact that I have rheumatoid arthritis was a secret that I was holding at work every day. Sometimes I was operating for 10 hours in a row straight in theater in horrible pain. And I would not tell anybody that the reason I dropped the scalpel was because I had massive arthritis in my thumb or whatever. And I just decided, look, I'm done with this. I'm going to be honest about my illness. People are either happy with it or they're not. If they're not happy, that is their problem. It is not my problem anymore because I am doing the best that I can. And I started speaking to my colleagues and telling them, look, this very public bullying situation happened at work, and I think this is really bad, and I don't want anybody else to go through this, so I'm putting a complaint in. And then I started learning from other people, actually, something very similar happened to me too. I thought it was normal, but now that you're mentioning it, yeah, it's not really normal, is it? And I'm like, no, it's not normal. And I don't want you to get to burnout where I am now. It's time that you figure out for yourself, do you accept this that's going on? Are you going to be willing to endure it? And are you going to get to where you want to be? Or do you want to change? Because you need to make up your mind as early as possible. The later you leave it, the more difficult it will be to untangle all the little things that have been happening in your life that are not working. And I've heard a lot more about other bullying incidents in the same hospital, other people that were close to burnout, other people that were thinking, I can't do this specialty, I need to come up with a plan B. And unfortunately, in a way, most of them were female as well. It was people that had embarked on this journey same time as me. I just happened to be the first one to speak up about it and say, I can't do this anymore. Since I've done that, I see other people come to me and say, actually, I think I'm going through something similar. Can you please help me? And I always say, yes, I will help you. Because I want people to feel happy in life. There's no point in being in this planet if you're not enjoying what you're doing. I don't understand the point of living in pain. I don't want anybody to go through that.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's really amazing the things you can change when you put an effort on it, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's not easy. It took a lot of time for me to think about these things, figure out what was right for me, what wasn't right for me. I didn't know if I would ever have any answers, and I still don't have all the answers. But I think that at least for now, I have the necessary answers, and I'm really glad that even though I've gone to the bottom of the well, and there have been times I thought about killing myself because I was stuck in Australia and I had no idea what else to do, I'm really glad that despite all of this, I have managed to crawl back little by little and find more fulfilling things in life.
I I think it's so admirable, your strength, to be honest, because we all go through, we all witness unfair situations, and we all shut down about it, and it really takes a huge amount of courage to speak up and to put yourself out there to be bullied by whoever is causing the situation and not aware of it. Sometimes I think people enter in a cycle. At some point, no one is aware that's not that's abnormal in that environment. We all accepted it for what it is, and sometimes it's very rare to actually to have someone who arrives and says, "Come on, this is not acceptable." I felt that, for example, now that you're mentioning, not it's kind of a nonsense situation. For example, here I live in Coimbra, and in the urgencies in the hospital, it's for me it's really unacceptable the way patients are treated over there, and not in medical patients way, in a government patient way. How is it possible to allow, I don't know how many people, over 40 probably, to be all in the same room without a window? How can you have to observe a patient who is seated next to I don't know how many other patients? Like, it's like you are observing someone in a waiting room. It really doesn't make sense. How
There's no privacy.
is that even allowed? And it's, for me, I feel uncomfortable just to watch that. And how is that? And the truth is that they throw you on that environment, and at some point you are more than used to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what's actually very scaring.
Yeah. The first time you do it, it's painful and you feel very uncomfortable. The second time, it's still uncomfortable, but you've done it before, so you're like, okay, well, this is kind of normal. And eventually you just start doing it and you don't even realize it.
Yes, exactly. And for me, it's very, and that happens with all situations. It's transversal. Yeah. So I really applaud you for having the guts to, to move something move something in your environments. And I'm happy that maybe some people who are also joining us can take something from it. And someone is also writing in the chat. Let me read. You're one of the bravest people I know, says Denise. I took a lot of courage to go to Australia and a lot of courage to decide to come back. The fact that you are so open and to experience and burnout in general will help and inspire a lot of people who already look up to you. And those who don't know you yet too. Yes, those who don't know you yet will know you by our live session.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
let me ask you, did you mention you traveled while you felt burned out, and how did you feel doing that?
Oh my God. That was the most anxious trip I have ever done. So after I burnt out, I didn't have the guts to face my parents because I knew if I saw them, they would try to convince me to come back. And
Yes.
at that time, I didn't know how to explain how I was feeling and what was wrong in my life because I didn't understand it yet. So instead, I decided I should go and visit one of my best friends. And at that time, he was living in Chile. So I got on a plane. I just bought return tickets. I was doing a master's as well. I did my last exam for the master's. And the next day, I was flying out. I bought a last minute ticket, return ticket to go to Chile and back. So I knew I was going to be overseas for 2 weeks. I had no idea what I was going to do for those 2 weeks. And obviously, my friend was working. So he wasn't just going to drop everything and spend all the time with me. The time that I was in that flight between Sydney and Santiago, I was anxious every single second of it, and I had no idea how to fix it. It was the worst plane ride I've ever done. But eventually, and I still felt this way. I felt there was something inside of my chest very tight all the time, and I couldn't breathe. And I couldn't have a moment of peace inside my mind. My head was just always going in all directions, and I was exhausted. After some time, so I went to Chile, and then I decided, oh, I should go to Argentina. So I bought a plane ticket to Argentina. And I don't remember if it was my first night or my second night in Buenos Aires. It was dark in my hotel room. It was late. And it wasn't very noisy, but that was the first time I realized, oh my God, there is no noise inside my head. There is nothing tight in my chest this very moment. I did not remember that I could feel this way. That was a light bulb moment for me. And I realized that the way I'd been feeling that whole time before, that's not how I want to feel, and that's not how I'm meant to feel.
Yeah. So basically, traveling was life-changing for you at that point.
Yeah. Buenos Aires now has a very special place in my heart. I know that Argentina is going through very difficult times, and the people that live there have a tough life. But for me,
Yes.
something happened. Something inside of me happened. I was able to get away from all responsibilities and just be and not think about anything else. Because before I couldn't decide if I should sit or shower or eat because I also had 1,000 other things to do. But when I was traveling, I didn't have 1,000 other things to do. I mean, I'm not going to work. What do you want me to do?
Yeah.
I'm not going to respond to emails right now. I'm on sick leave. So now I only have to decide if I'm going to sit, shower, or eat. I don't have to decide anything else. And you know what? I can do one at a time. It's okay.
Oh God. Sometimes I feel like this hustling culture we have, it's not healthy at all, and not what we are supposed to do actually with our lives. It's just the way, the system works.
Mhm.
And sometimes it's good to rethink our purpose in life. I think that's very, very important. Um, and traveling really help you. Go.
No, I was just thinking, I do know some people that are so in love with their jobs. And I find that very admirable. I really admire their passion. And this is really their life's purpose. This is what they love doing. And they believe this is the reason they are on our planet. And that is what they do. They do the hustling and bustling, but they are happy. And I think, okay, well, if you're happy, then by all means do that. You're doing a fantastic job. You're not only helping yourself, but you're helping a lot of people. That is great. However, if that's not what's working for you, then you need to make a change. I think I have had phases in my life where I've been almost a workaholic. I genuinely love my job and I really enjoy every single moment of the things that I'm doing. And I think in that time, it's fine. But then I've come to realize I can't do that consistently all the time. And I don't think this would be feasible for the next 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years of my life. And that is why I had to make a change. From my experience meeting people in different corners of the world so far, I haven't met a lot of people that are fully satisfied with their work alone. They often need something else in their life. So that is the reason that I advocate for trying to find a balance with other activities, making sure you're self-caring, making sure you have hobbies, you're seeing people, you're getting love and affection from other people, because being by yourself can be very difficult as well. I think the human being is a social being. So that is why I advocate for that. But I just want to have this caveat that some people are genuinely very happy simply focusing on work. And if that's someone else out there, it's fine by me. Just do whatever makes you happy.
Yes, I agree with you. But what I have in mind is like, for example, you imagine there's the person A. I'm not going to say you or me, but the person A loves her job, but it feels stuck with bureaucracy behind it, or the job 9 to 5. Probably if you didn't oblige her, she would do that by her will from 24/7, and she wouldn't complain. But because you are acting like you have to demand this and that and that, and at some point it's overwhelming. I don't know. That's what I feel it's wrong with hustling, because the truth is that we all need some purpose in life, and probably the chances of that purpose is serving the society in some way are very high, right? But I think the burnout and mental illness and happens when you feel like you are forced to do that in a way that is not natural to you, and that goes with what you said, and I really agree with your idea.
Yeah, so it's potentially not aligned with your values at the time, because obviously our main focus for most of us when we become doctors is to see patients, try and see how we can help them and do that, because that's our main goal. We want to make somebody feel better. But it can be very difficult when you have to do other things that you don't see directly align with that goal. So sometimes you might be asked to do bureaucracy and you're thinking, but why do I have to do this? How is this going to help my patient? Why do I have to jump through all these hoops to get to the one thing, the one small thing that I want so I can help my patient? And that's what can be so tiring, and that can really demotivate people. So I really understand what you're saying.
Yes. And not only in medicine, but for example, I think COVID really came to show that it's so possible, and even it gives you actually an advantage if we stop with this 9 to 5 thing in the office. There are a lot of benefits about, for example, if you work in technology or something like this, you don't need to be at office from 9 to 5. The environment will actually benefit from it. You can do your job at home, and no one needs to be looking at you to make sure you're working. That kind of like stuff that makes kind of feel like it's an obligation when you are actually doing something you love, and there's no need for that to happen. And that kind of mindset, that's I think it's actually shifting after COVID because companies notice that you don't need that old fashionable mentality, and it's actually more lucrative for them to monitor someone's work through the goals than through the time they spend sitting on
Exactly.
there.
Everybody wins when you have happy employees. And this is part of what I was trying to say earlier, that I think something we could really improve on in Portugal is the way that we handle each other and we communicate with each other. I remember when I was an intern in Portugal, I'd I'd heard administrative staff come up to me or call me and say, "Oh, you didn't work enough hours this week, or you didn't work enough hours on this day, or whatever. You owe us hours." And I thought, well, but what did you want me to do? I did all of my work. It's not my fault that I'm more efficient. So, do you want me to just stay there and look at a wall? I don't get it.
That's what they want.
Because I had work, I had spent some time doing consulting work, and my best friend in Chile, he works in consulting. My sister and her husband work in economy. And in those industries, I had already come to realize that the purpose is trying to achieve your goals. You meet with your manager or with your boss or whoever that is. You decide, okay, this is what I'm going to do next, and this is what I would like to achieve. And that's what they're going to be checking. They're not going to be checking if you did these many hours this day or these many hours the other day. And they are definitely not getting told off by, I don't know, the chauffeur, the receptionist because they didn't do enough hours. What does that person know about our job? Who are they to try and force us and trying to make us feel guilty because we didn't spend extra time at work, even though we had already met our goals? This is something that really offended me when I was working in Portugal. And this is part of what I'm trying to say. In Australia, I have realized that if we have more work that needs to be done, it sucks, but we will get it done. And we will get paid for the extra time we're doing it. But as soon as we have an opportunity to leave early and go home or do something else, we will take that opportunity and no one is going to make us feel guilty about it.
Yes, because life is too short to stay at work just to look at walls.
Yeah.
And okay, with all of this we said, and you were very transparent, and I really appreciate that. Did you regret going to Australia?
No.
And it seems like it was very hard for you. So what made you not regret it?
Because these are all life-changing experiences regardless. It was very hard. It was very painful. Look, honestly, in some ways, it's been the worst 5 years of my life, in some ways. And I used to think that going through medical school was pretty bad. But the truth is, I would not be the person and the doctor that I am now had it not been for the last 5 years. Had I not decided to move to Australia, had I not taken a chance on love, had I not decided to do more exams to prove my worth and prove that I was a good enough person to work in Australia, because there were a lot of hoops that I had to go through. I have learned from every single experience that I've gone through. And I think it has been a very humbling time as well. I was probably in some ways not a very nice person before, but now that I've been at the bottom of the well, I am much kinder to myself and to other people. And I can't regret that, because I think at the end of the day, this is the better way to be with everybody. And I have learned a lot. So much, so much.
What did you feel like about the Australian culture, their way of living? Did you feel like they help you or hurt you in some ways?
Both, both. And either from a personal or from a professional experience, I've had both. But I think that applies everywhere in the world, because it's just the nature of human beings. Some people are nicer than others. Some people are more helpful than others. Some people are more competitive than others. But even in the competitive environments, I think I have learned different coping strategies. And if I do find myself in a hostile environment in the future again, I'll probably handle it differently.
Yeah.
But in general, I I try to hold on to the positive things. I hold on to the good people that I believe will be friends with me no matter where I am in the world. I stay in touch with the bosses that have helped me a lot and are happy to continue to help me, even if I decide to come back to Portugal. I think we'll be in touch. I truly believe that. And I think this is really good because it will allow me to continue to grow in the future as well.
Yes, definitely. And I have no doubts that, your next phase in Portugal will bring you so much good energy. And I really hope you don't regret moving to Portugal.
Unlikely. I don't usually have many regrets in life or any at all.
No, I'm
The,
kidding. I'm kidding
yeah.
because our medical system is not in its best phase, as you know.
Mhm. Of
Um,
course.
so
Yeah.
we definitely need people like you to come.
Sure. I'm happy to come back and I'll bring whatever I've earned in Australia and I'll try and teach people here as well. I love teaching and I just try to do the best that I can. So hopefully it'll be good for everybody. If
Yeah,
somebody has a problem, they can come and tell me. It's okay. I can take it.
thank you. So I think it's time for us to finish our life. I really, really enjoyed talking to you. I feel like we could spend more time talking about, traveling around Australia or something. Maybe, oh, this is going to close. Maybe next time, maybe I can invite you again other time.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for
Yeah,
sharing
thank
that
you.
experience with us.
No, thank you. It was really nice to chat to you.
It was very, very meaningful, and we definitely all learned something from you today. Um, yes. This live, for the ones who couldn't watch, this live will be available on my Instagram page and also on my YouTube channel. If you want to pass by and leave your comments, we will appreciate it. And hopefully the next live will be very soon. If you want to see Liliana here again, let me know. I definitely do. Do you want to say something to close the session today?
Oh gosh, what else can I say?
You have 1 minute.
I just want people to remember they are not stuck. No matter how difficult things may look, there is always another way out. That's what I'm trying to convince myself of as well.
You are definitely a warrior, and I believe you were very, very inspiring today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Right.
Peace.
Bye.
Bye, bye everyone.